And a very warm welcome to all of you, one and all rather, to this weekend edition of the Iftar Drive. My name is Zahid Jadwat, and I'll be keeping you company this afternoon up until around 6 p.m. Lots to discuss, although it is a Sunday afternoon, so the week is winding down. And, in fact, we should be preparing for the week ahead. But let's not go there just yet. Let's enjoy the slow pace of a Sunday afternoon. If you do have that privilege and that luxury, of course, by all means, please do go ahead and enjoy your Sunday afternoon. But do stick with us. I'll be keeping you company throughout the course of this show during Ramadan, during the weekends. And I look forward to keeping you company, of course, looking at some of the stories that we are looking to discuss and unpack this afternoon. Of course, the DA has been, well, they've just concluded their federal congress in Midrand at the Gallagher estate this afternoon. And we're seeing some results there coming in this afternoon. In fact, John Steenhuisen now having secured a second term as the leader of that party. Helen Ziller as well re-elected as federal chairperson. So quite a few developments there at the DA. And of course, we'll be getting some analysis on that later on in the show. But right now, let's move and directly to connect with Dr. Yvonne Ridley, who is a British journalist and author, for our weekly segment. And that, of course, is Ummah in Focus. She joins us now. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Salam Media.
Walaikum salam.
How are you this afternoon? How's your Ramadan? It's already week 2.
Well, it's going much better than I expected, and although it's nearly 16 hours, it seems to pass very quickly, which is a blessing.
Alhamdulillah. Well, I mean, okay, so last week when we connected, things seemed to be quite gloomy. I know the weather over here in Johannesburg was gloomy, but the news as well, worldwide, was quite gloomy last week. And I think it was sad to speak about those topics, but I did say that we'll try to get some positive stories this week. And I don't know, it depends how you look at this, but I think some positive news coming out of Scotland, and I'm sure you'll tell us all about that with regards to the recent election of its first Muslim First Minister.
Yes, do excuse my pet dog. He's rather excited today. Yes, the great news is that the new leader or First Minister in Scotland is Humza Yousaf, who is his roots are in Pakistan, although he was born in Scotland, and he is the first minister of colour of Asian descent, and alhamdulillah, a Muslim as well. So that is very good news, and it really boosts the confidence of the Muslim community.
Tell us about the atmosphere there. How have people responded to this?
Well, I haven't seen any negative responses, although a few cynical people felt that his display of holding the iftar prayers in Bute House, which is the equivalent of Downing Street, but it's in Edinburgh, that's his official residence. A few people thought that that was a cynical exploitation of his religion. I suppose you can look at it in lots of different ways, because the issue of religion has cropped up quite a bit during the race to become First Minister. One of his closest rivals was a woman called Kate Forbes, who is a devout Christian. And she laid out her Christian beliefs and said that there were red lines that she wouldn't cross. And so, as I say, religion did become a bit of an issue. But I just think the images of seeing the First Minister in prayer during Ramadan from the official residence of the First Minister was made, it was a really feel-good factor.
I suppose it is quite heartwarming to see such change coming into effect. But I do want to know, before we move on to some of the other stories that we've got lined up, which are not as exciting as this one, um, just quickly from your side, do you see this as the beginning, or at least as part of the beginning of a new trend in Europe? Since, quite a few months ago, we did also see Rishi Sunak becoming the first person of color to be the Prime Minister of the UK.
Yes. What we have to see is that they both perform well. There was a lot of jubilation when Margaret Thatcher took the keys to Downing Street, but that was short-lived. She did nothing for women's rights. She did very little to inspire women. And in fact, she didn't surround herself by women ministers. So although she broke the glass ceiling being the first female prime minister, nothing pro-women transpired from that. So I guess that Rishi Sunak has to do well, has to perform well. In many ways, he and Humza Yousaf have a heavier burden on their shoulders because there is great expectation from the Asian community because they are the first Asians to have achieved offices of high power.
Yes, of course, and I think I think we could only really hope that these new leaders can actually learn from the mistakes of their predecessors, and that they can live up to the expectations that they have set by their very assuming of office. Nonetheless, let's now move away from that. Some good, that was a feel-good story for this week. But let's move on to some of the other matters that are occurring in the Muslim world at the moment. And of course, still a sad situation in Palestine, where we see that the Israeli occupation forces have killed, I think, Palestinian youth in Masjid al-Aqsa.
You have to wonder if the Israeli military has Ramadan really circled up in its calendar, because every Ramadan some atrocity is thrown at the Palestinians by Israel. And on Friday night, they shot a Palestinian youth inside Al-Aqsa Mosque while he was trying to re-enter the holy site after being removed. So here was a young man who was going to perform his prayers and paid for it with his life. And it is eyewitnesses said that they saw the Israelis assaulting a Palestinian woman who was also attempting to re-enter the mosque as well. And it is an obscenity and a global scandal that people are not allowed to pursue their faith, whether they're Christian or Muslims, in Israel today. What is really occupied Palestine, of course. So it really is a tragedy. One of the eyewitnesses said he heard 20 gunshots fired in less than a minute, leaving one man wounded on the floor near Bab al-Silsia gate. It's just really tragic. I mean, that young man, his family, he was identified as Mohammed El Asibi. 26 years old, his whole life before him, and he was from one of the Bedouin towns of Hura in Al-Nakab. And not only was he going back to fulfill his obligatory prayers, but he went back to try and protect the women who were being assaulted by Israeli police. I mean, he will no doubt be a martyr. You know, his death was in so many good causes and on such a holy site. Inshallah, his place in Jannah will be assured. But that still doesn't take away the pain from his family.
I mean, yes, of course. I just want to know quickly from you, do you see this exacerbating in the coming weeks? We are, of course, now in the second week of Ramadan. We've got about 3 weeks to go. How do you see this playing out?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
My apologies for that. So I was saying, we've seen this incident that occurred on Friday night, right? It was it was a fatal, a very sad incident, quite tragic. We've got about 3 weeks left of Ramadan. How do you see this playing out? I mean, in the aftermath of this incident, do you see things, tensions flaring up once again?
Well, the tension, it's like tinderwood. All we need is for one heavy-handed Israeli soldier or policeman just to drop a match on the tinderwood and it will all go up. It's a very tense situation, and most people in the world look forward to Ramadan with joy. The Palestinians have learned to look upon Ramadan with a mixture of joy and also trepidation, because the Israelis just can't resist but do something horrific during our holy month. I
Mm.
don't know if it's deliberate. I don't believe in coincidences, and I don't believe in conspiracy theories either. But the Palestinians are right to feel some trepidation at this blessed time of the year.
Mm. And then, of course, staying in the Middle East, we're seeing some efforts now to have Arab nations normalize ties with Syria once again.
Well, the problem is I have with that is that Assad, the leader, is the problem, not a solution. A man who uses guns and bombs so recklessly on his own citizens cannot be a man who is trusted. And as I say, he is the cause, not the solution. So I always feel very uncomfortable on the attempts to normalize the Assad regime. And I often think of those people in northern Syria, all the refugees who fled from the scorched earth policies of the Russian bombardment in Aleppo. And I think of all those people who just fled and ended up in that part of Syria. I've visited Idlib a few years ago and made quite a number of friends. The Syrian people want peace, but they don't want it at any price. And any price would be allowing Bashar al-Assad back into their lives. And as I say, he is not the solution. He is the cause of the problem.
All right, I think that's all we've got time for this afternoon. But thank you so much, Shukran, for your time this afternoon with us once again.
Okay, thank you. Salam.
Walaikum salam. That was Dr. Yvonne Ridley joining us to speak about some of the major incidents occurring at the moment in the Muslim world, all the way from the Middle East and, of course, over the Mediterranean and across the terrain of the Europe as well. So, quite a number of stories that we managed to discuss. I think it was three, which is a good. Uh, I think it's a fair amount of stories that we managed to fit in this week compared to last week. So I think we're doing well with the time there this time. And I quite thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Of course, I hope you did as well. And we look forward to hearing from you. You can tweet and tag at Salam Media. Nonetheless, it's now 29 minutes past 3 p.m. Central African time. Let's take a break. When we get back, we go to discuss the DA's Federal Congress.